Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I'm David Meyer. I'm the Dean here at Brooklyn Law School, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this really very special evening. This is now my third annual alumni dinner since joining BLS, and it now stands right up there with convocation when we welcome the new students, fresh-faced and excited about the future about to unfold for them, and with graduation, of course, when we launch them into their careers. But then this day, too, is among my three favorite days of the year. Because it's, of course, an opportunity for us to gather and reconnect and to celebrate through our alumni the qualities that make our Brooklyn law family so special. I want to begin by thanking all of you for being here, and I also want to express our gratitude to the nearly 30 sponsors who have made tonight possible. Of that group, I want to especially highlight and thank our platinum sponsors, Frank Aquila of class of '83, the chair of our board, and Wanda Denson-Lowe of the class of '81, and also on our board, and her husband Ronald. And in addition to thanking them and all of our trustees here tonight for their service and support, I want to especially recognize our Alumni Association Board of Directors. They truly pour themselves into organizing and supporting this annual dinner with all of the incredible amount of work that entails and all of the wonderful good that comes from that work and of your being here. And so in addition to thanking Colleen for her extraordinary leadership, I'd also like to ask all members of the Alumni Association Board please to rise so that we can acknowledge and thank you for your service. Thank you, truly. I'll say just a word about the state of the law school, which is strong and getting stronger by every measure. And I'll mention just three here tonight in the interest of time. But in admissions, the demand for a Brooklyn Law School degree is surging. Last year, our applications to Brooklyn were up 18%. This year, they're up 30%. Over last year's number, and that is nearly 3 times the national average for applications to law school. So there is something we're seeing at Brooklyn that is very special. Our faculty, as a second point of pride, are on fire, as they have always been. They are renowned around the world. They're ranked 29th in the nation collectively in terms of scholarly impact. And in a new ranking that came out just about a week ago, a listing of the nation's top 100 legal scholars, focusing on, as measured by citations of their scholarship in recent work, a Brooklyn Law School professor, Jocelyn Simonson, appears on that list of top 100 legal scholars. She appears at number 4. And finally, the third measure is, and an important one, of course, for a professional school, is the outcomes of our students and graduates. And our students are thriving. Our job placements have been setting records for Brooklyn Law School for each of the past 4 years. And next week, I'm delighted to share, we will be reporting to the ABA our placement numbers for last year's graduating class, which for the first time in Brooklyn Law School history topped 90% employed. These are employed in long-term, full-time legal jobs. And we just learned of a new placement today, so that number keeps ticking up before we report it at the end of the month. All of this momentum I want to share comes in a landmark year for Brooklyn Law School, in which we are going to be celebrating this fall the law school's 125th anniversary. That's a milestone. And it also comes at a time when Brooklyn Law School's distinctive mission of opportunity and transformational excellence in preparing new generations of lawyers for leadership in society has never been more important. And so in the year ahead, we look forward to partnering with you in celebrating this milestone birthday for the law school, and also in recommitting ourselves to Brooklyn's future as we launch what will be our first ever comprehensive capital campaign. It deserves applause, because that campaign is geared toward ensuring that future generations as students, as members of society, benefit from Brooklyn Law School in all the ways that we did and even more. So I'm delighted to welcome you and to thank you for being here and for all you do for Brooklyn Law School, and look forward to joining with you in celebrating our amazing alumni.
Right. Over the past several years, the Alumni Association Board of Directors, officers, and I have been honored and privileged to work with Dean Karen Porter and Robert Fisher, the Associate Director of Bar Preparation, to support the extraordinary work of the Bar Exam Preparation Fund. The fund helps our students achieve their first critical milestone after graduation, passing the bar exam. I am thrilled to have Dean Porter join us tonight to tell you how the funds raised every year at this dinner benefit our students.
Thank you very much, Colleen. I'm delighted to be here with you and delighted to have a room full of alums who are supportive of our students remembering their own histories at the law school. I want to tell you that every student who participates in the bar prep program benefits from access to tutoring and mentoring, and mentors who provide guidance, encouragement, and real-world insight into taking the bar exam. Approximately 70 students receive direct financial support from this fund each year. This includes access to grant funding to alleviate financial burdens, allowing them to focus entirely on preparing for the exam. In addition, the support that you provide, funds raised here, right, provide meals during the bar prep program and on the day of the bar itself. Many of the staff members of the law school are on hand for both days of the bar exam at the Javits Center, at Hofstra and Fordham, to provide test takers with lunch and support, generously provided by this group here tonight. I'd also like you to hear from two recent BLS grads who participated in the program, passed the bar, and are beginning their legal services careers.
The experience of studying for the bar exam today, as with many other areas of the legal field, has become somewhat isolated.
It was general stress of doing this big, daunting task that I had heard people talking about for many years before me.
When I was taking the bar in February 2024, or rather preparing to take the bar in February of 2024, I was most concerned about having to take the bar again in July 2024.
So what we do is we bring students into the school to eat breakfast on Monday mornings, snacks on Tuesdays and Thursdays, faculty sessions to review subjects on Wednesdays along with lunch, additional workshops and practice sessions. We have simulated exams, multiple choice sections, MPTs, essays. We just try to make sure that the students are all seeing each other and moving towards their goal of passing the bar exam.
It really gave me a sense of community in my time when I was studying and where I otherwise might have felt isolated, even downstairs in the library.
I was able to surround myself with other people that were like-minded trying to take the bar exam in a fairly formal setting, and that helped to ground me and help me eliminate the distractions that I usually have when I try to do things on my own. So I was able to really simulate being in an environment where I couldn't take these long breaks or couldn't not hold myself accountable because there was also people in the room with me.
One time I felt like I needed some support in my writing, so I reached out through a form that Rob Fisher had supplied to us to be connected with a tutor, and that tutor specifically set up an online meeting with me, and they went through my writing step by step. And it was extremely helpful, even kind of late in the game in my bar prep process.
Many of our students are working part-time or even full-time, and so when they're studying for the bar exam, they have to reduce their hours in order to have the time to study. So what we've done through our bar preparation program is we've provided rental and other grants to help students pay for their bar review course and pay their rent and pay for food as they are studying for the exam.
On the day of the exam, although I was pretty stressed and anxious, I did feel the support of Brooklyn Law School with me that day.
So the day that I passed the bar, I can only say that it really drove home to me how powerful the feeling of relief is. I did feel like a wave of just like weightlessness come over me that I don't think I've felt ever before, and I haven't felt since actually.
Taking the bar exam, so I can give you a minute. But thank you to Dean Porter and Robert Fisher for leading this important program for the law school. Every student who graduates from Brooklyn Law School is welcomed into our alumni community and the Alumni Association. Every alum in this room knows how deep our bonds are to the Brooklyn Law School community and how generous in every way our alumni are to the law school. For generations, Brooklyn Law School alumni return to the law school to mentor students, help students prepare for on-campus interviews, speak on student organization panels, teach classes, judge at the Jerome Prince Moot Court competition, which is later this month, hire students for internships and full-time positions, and I could go on and on about your generosity. I love this dinner as it's an opportunity for us to come together once a year to reconnect and to celebrate everything we love about the law school. It's also an opportunity to give back to the law school, as generation of other students have done in the years prior, and helping generations of law school students embark on their legal careers and join us as members of the Alumni Association. I encourage you to continue to stay connected to Brooklyn Law School this coming year. I hope that you will help us also build on the momentum from tonight and make a gift in support of the Bar Exam Preparation Fund using the QR codes around the room. They're actually in the brochures that you received that are sitting at your places. And I thank you in advance for your continued generosity. All right, now on to the highlight of the evening, our honorees. Each year, our Rising Star Award is presented to an alum who graduated from the law school within the past 10 years and who is a distinguished luminary in the field. The Alumni Association is proud to honor tonight 2018 graduate Ankit Kapoor. Like so many Brooklyn School alum, Ankit has had a distinguished career before starting law school. Ankit spent 7 years serving our community as an NYPD police officer in Bedford-Stuyvesant. He knew, though, that he really wanted to be a lawyer, and like so many in this room, had the grit and the determination to make it happen. While he attended Brooklyn Law School as a part-time student, he took evening classes and drove to Bedford-Stuyvesant for his midnight shift on the police force. And now, for more about our rising star, I'd like you to hear from two of Ankit's mentors as they present him with this distinguished honor. And to the video.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Driscoll, and I've been privileged to be a member of the Brooklyn Law School faculty for the last 28 years. I'd like to tell you tonight about one of my amazing students that I've had, Ankit Kapoor. Ankit impressed me from the very beginning. He was so inquisitive. He wanted the answer, and you could tell that his brow was knotted as he was trying to figure it out. And I remember about 6 weeks in when he said, "Judge, I think I got it." And I said, "Yes, you have the Ankit moment." And through the rest of the semester, we referred to getting the Ankit moment with any of the concepts that I was teaching. And that's when you could tell that he was really coming into his own, because he was talking to me about using his law degree, not just in his service in the police department and not just in public service, but his ultimate dream was to be an entrepreneur and have his own law practice. Ankit, you've achieved that dream and then some. Congratulations, Ankit.
I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to introduce my partner, Ankit Kapoor. Ankit had been a cop with the New York Police Department for 7 years, during which time he decided what he really wanted to do was be a lawyer. He went to Brooklyn Law School at night, distinguished himself, graduated, 2018. Practiced as a corporation counsel in the New York State Supreme Court during the following year. And there he was sitting in my offices telling Marty and me that he wanted to be a matrimonial lawyer. He was very charismatic, very smart, very eager. And at the end of the conversation, I said to him, "So Ankit, what's your goal?" He said, "My goal is to have my name on the door." I looked at Marty and she looked at me, and the two of us said in unison, "You're hired." And today, here he is.
Wow. I try cases for a living, but I've never spoken to a group of 300 individuals. But, everyone has their moment, and tonight it's mine, it's Brooklyn Law School's, it's Larry Silverstein's moment. It should be no surprise that tonight is very special to me. Most of the people that are closest to me are here: my parents, my brother, my soon-to-be sister-in-law, my cousin, my best friends, and my beautiful girlfriend, who's the sweetest and kindest woman I've ever met. I must say that without my parents, I would not be here today. None of this would be possible. I'm going to share with you things that you may not know. We are a family of immigrants. I myself am an immigrant. I was not born here. I came here in April of 1999 with my parents, my brother. I was 9 years old. I did not speak a word of English, neither did they. My parents came here in believing in the promise of the American dream, and I'm proud to say we've lived it and we've accomplished it. And And one thing my parents taught me very early on is you have to put your head down and you have to work very hard. We didn't have any money, we didn't have a car. We lived in a small apartment on 109th Street and 101st Avenue in Queens. My father's first job was at the corner deli where he made $250 a week. My parents turned that $250 a week into several businesses that grew. They bought a brand new home on Long Island in 2005 so my brother and I could have a better education. They put us through college and grad school. My brother is a doctor of physical therapy. And I joke with my parents, I said, you didn't get a medical doctor like every other Indian parent wants, but you got a doctor of physical therapy and you got a doctor of laws. I think that goes a long way. Brooklyn Law School was instrumental in my life. The professors, the staff, the librarians, everyone was remarkable. The school gave me an opportunity to build a life that I could have never imagined. But as you heard in that video, before BLS, there was the NYPD. My best friend from when I was a rookie cop is here today. He's a detective in counterterrorism. My immediate supervisor, who was a sergeant at the time, is also here today. He's now a chief in the NYPD. He called me a few days ago. He said, I need your help with this business contract. I said, well, then you got to buy a ticket to this event, and you got to help my law school. You can pay the $400 for this ticket, or I'm charging you $700 an hour for this contract. And he made the wise choice and decided to buy the ticket. When I came to Brooklyn Law School in 2014, I had just turned 25 years old. I was in my third year as a police officer. I worked the midnight tour in Bed-Stuy in the 79th precinct. I would sleep from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I would get up, I would come to class from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I would work 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. and I would do most of my reading between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. because that's when the radio was the slowest. I didn't always feel ready, I didn't always feel rested, but as I said, my parents taught me you have to put your head down and do the work. So I did the work. And for any students and recent graduates that may be here today, I want to share a piece of advice. You have to put down and do the work, and I don't mean in your pajamas from home. I mean, get up, exercise, get dressed, and go into the office and learn from the experienced lawyers that are there. You will not make your way to a podium like this sitting on Zoom 4 days a week, 5 days a week. Now, let me take you back to time in law school in terms of doing the work. I was on a class project and there was a case happening in Brooklyn at the time. And I read the name of the lawyer on the case, the defense lawyer. His name was Robert Brown. And I said, why am I doing this project reading about what's in the news? I'm just going to pick up the phone and call him. Well, that conversation in 2016 turned into a mentorship and a friendship, and my mentor, Robert Brown, is here today. So learn to be resourceful. Now, I'm taking you through this very quick journey of my life. And in 2019, that journey landed me in the office of Harriet and Marty's firm. I was introduced to them by a current judge. Her name is Lisa Sokoloff, who could not be here tonight, but God bless her, because that introduction changed all of our lives. I'm fortunate enough to learn from them every single day. You heard a little bit about that in the video, but I met them at 3 p.m. I left Harriet's office at 6:15 p.m. So you can imagine we hit it off right away. And as you heard, when they asked me, what's your goal? I said, I want my name on the door. Because if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. Now, we have incredible clients. My partner, Marty, is an incredible woman and an incredible rainmaker. There wouldn't be a firm without the three of us, but there truly wouldn't be a firm without her. She trusts me to try many of her cases. I'm now known as a trial lawyer, at least in the matrimonial world. And it goes to say we all come into work together and we work as a team. And the work gets noticed, and I remember when it was really noticed, I woke up at 6 a.m. one morning, and I had a text at 5:49 a.m. from none other than Tom Brady asking me to pick my brain. So that's how you know you've made it. And those are the type of clients we represent. They trust us. And they trust us because we're relentless. My partner Marty, my partner Harriet, and I try all the cases. Although she second chairs me in the cases, she's not second to me. We win these cases together. I thank my firm for being here, the Cohen family. One of Harriet's daughter flew here all the way from Wisconsin, another fellow BLS graduate. So thank you, Patty, for coming. I want to share with you, Harriet and I had a recent trial, 20-day trial on whether or not the parties were actually married. At the end of the 20-day trial, we said they're not married. It was clearly they were not married. And at the end of the trial, the judge ruled that they were married. The judge then retired a week later. 2 weeks after that, in July of 2024, I saw him at a party, and he and I are friendly. So I said to him, Doug, I'm going to get you reversed. 2 months ago, we obtained a unanimous reversal from the appellate court of the First Department, holding that our client was not married, and that client is here today, and he's a very happy and grateful man. As I stated, we are relentless. If you are interested in that case, I'm not going to bore you with any further details. You can look it up online. Type in Harriet or Ankit and Bishop and Priest. I guarantee you'll find it. Now, looking back at my journey, it's amazing to think how it all started. I began my career as a cop. I stand before you as a counselor. Brooklyn Law School made me a counselor. And I'll leave you with something that stayed with me, something that my parents taught me, and then I happened to come across it in Harriet's most recent book, Passion and Power, which I recommend all of you buy. In her book, she quotes her mother, and her mother says, if you can't go through, go around. If you can't go around, go over. If you can't go over, go under. But somehow, in some way, always reach your goal. And that 9-year-old kid who landed at JFK with his family on April 2nd, 1999, reached his goal of becoming the rising star of Brooklyn Law School. Thank you, Brooklyn Law School, for this incredible honor.
In the world of New York real estate, Larry Silverstein is a legend whose extraordinary vision transformed the skyline of Lower Manhattan. He is not only a Brooklyn native, but a 1955 graduate of Brooklyn Law School and someone we are proud to call one of our own. While Larry had developed many important buildings over the years, the $3.2 billion 99-year lease he signed for the World Trade Center in July 2001 was his most ambitious and audacious deal to date. At the time, it was the largest real estate transaction in New York history. 6 weeks later, 9/11 happened. Larry was determined to rebuild the tragedy. His vision included a memorial for those who were lost and a new architecturally stunning World Trade Center that would transform the skyline and revive Lower Manhattan as a thriving residential and commercial destination. For the last 25 years, Larry made this massive and complicated project his life's work. The gleaming World Trade Center towers that now dazzle New Yorkers and tourists alike today are a symbol of the resilience of New York City and the United States. They also embody the determination of Larry Silverstein. Let's hear from Larry in an interview with Brooklyn Law School about that project.
After college, I decided to go to Brooklyn Law School because it offered me the opportunity of going to law school in the morning and going to my father's office in the afternoon. And so by 12:30, I was in his office, spent the afternoon there, learning to be a real estate broker, to learn something about how to be a better businessman. I felt going to law school would give me an exposure that I thought would be beneficial to me. It was a good experience. It taught me how to think as a lawyer, and learning how to think as a lawyer gives you access to a way of thinking that's beneficial in any course that you want to enter in life, particularly in the field of business. I purchased the Twin Towers 6 weeks before 9/11. Almost 3,000 people lost their lives here. So it became obvious to me that I had to do something quickly. The realization that if I didn't do it, no one else would or could. I had an obligation to rebuild. I've had extraordinary good fortune in my life, extraordinary luck. And I found that the harder I worked, the luckier I got. If you really want to accomplish something in life, you have to be willing to give it everything you've got to get there, to accomplish it, right? If you're dispassionate about something, forget it. It isn't worth doing. But if there's something you're passionate about and want to give it your all, then if you do give it your all and use good judgment and use intelligence and use reasoning, there isn't any reason why you shouldn't be able to accomplish your goal. Because at the end of the day, what you got is your name, your reputation, your integrity, and your family.
Tonight we are enormously grateful for Larry Silverstein's visionary leadership in reshaping urban landscapes of New York City, of course, but of so many other places beyond as well. And we are enormously proud that his story is intertwined with our own in exemplifying the values of opportunity, excellence, and a relentless commitment to the future. Please join me in welcoming Brooklyn Law School Alumnus of the Year, Larry Silverstein.
I'm impressed as hell. Can you hear me? I'm impressed as hell at this rising star, Ankit Kapoor. This is a young man who's going places. His determination, his drive, his willingness to give it everything he has to accomplish his goal is something that I found extraordinarily beautiful. And so the pleasure I get in being here tonight is to listen to what he had to say and what he's on the road to accomplishing with his life. Because if you want to achieve a goal, there's only one way to do it. And that is to give it everything you've got in an effort to achieve what it is you want to achieve with your life. There are no halfway measures. You have to set your sights on it and go for it. And that's exactly what he's done, and I think it's beautiful. All I can say to you is, God bless you. Keep going. Don't stop. Now for the more mundane. Okay, so Dean Meyer, thank you for inviting Clara and me here tonight. To thank you to the entire Brooklyn Law School community for this honor. It means a great deal to be recognized by a place that played such an important role in shaping my professional life. As you heard, I started working with my father when I was a teenager. He had been a piano teacher before getting into the real estate business. He met a young woman. He taught her how to play the piano. She taught him how to get married. He became a real estate broker in a dreadful part of New York. It was then called the Rag and Remnant District of Lower Manhattan. Not a great place to work or to function. Real estate was the subject of every discussion around the dinner table. Buildings, tenants, leases, opportunities. It was a family business in every sense of the word. I went to NYU for my undergraduate degree, and afterward decided to attend the Brooklyn Law School. My thinking was pretty straightforward. I decided if I wanted to succeed in business, especially in the real estate business, it would help to understand the law. Did I have an intention of practicing law? No. But did I want to be a good real estate person, a good real estate professional? Yes. That was my goal. And so one of the great advantages of the Brooklyn Law School was that I was able to schedule going to the classes in the morning, leaving at noon, and being in my father's office by 12:30 and at work. And it was just a terrific opportunity to learn the law, to understand what it meant to be a lawyer and how to function with the thinking of a lawyer, and be able to analyze and be able to decide what was important, what was secondary, what was primary, what was tertiary. And learning the real estate business firsthand was something that, to me, was enormously important. There was something that gave me a drive. Never quite knew what it was, but there was a drive to be an owner of real estate in the city of New York, because I realized, as my father was struggling to make a living, being a broker at that time was really a terribly unproductive way to go. The people who made the money were the people who owned the buildings, and it became obvious to me that the only way to really succeed in New York in the real estate profession was become an owner of real estate. But when you had no assets of any kind, when you had no money of any kind, when you didn't have a car of any kind, you had nothing, to become an owner of real estate was difficult. So at one point, I opened the New York Times and I saw that a gentleman by the name of Harry Helmsley and another by the name of Lawrence Wien bought the Empire State Building. And they bought it by going to 5,000 investors, each of whom invested $5,000 to become a limited partner in the ownership of the Empire State Building. And I said that day, I said to my father, I said, Dad, these guys just bought the Empire State Building with other people's money. He said, can you figure it out? I said, I'm going to try. That result is one day I found a building that someone wanted to sell. There was a $15,000 requirement on a contract. I said to my dad, I said, Dad, we need $15,000 to sign a contract to buy this building. He said, we don't have $15,000. I said, well, let's go and try to borrow it. We started going to different banks, And each bank asked us the same question: what's your collateral? I said, if we had collateral, I wouldn't be here. After about 32, maybe 33 banks, we found one on 85 Delancey Street, Public National Bank. The manager of the bank was a fellow by the name of Phil Green. He said, gentlemen, can I help you? And I said, yes, we need to borrow $15,000. He said, what do you want to do with it? I said, we'd like to purchase a building. He said, what are the details? And I took out some papers, because I carried them with me, laying out the details of this proposed acquisition. And he listened to my story. And he said, do you have any collateral? I said, no. Next thing I know, he reached into a drawer, took out a piece of paper, and he said, sign it. I said, what is it? He said, it's a promissory note. I looked at him, I said, you're going to give us the money? He said, isn't that what you want? I was so shocked. We found a banker willing to give us $15,000. Absolutely amazing. He said, what's the cost of the building? I said it was $600,000. He said, well, can I make a recommendation? I said, sure. Anything you want to tell us would be very helpful, because we knew nothing. He said, you ought to go out and get a mortgage. I said, well, can you give us a mortgage? He said, you need a different bank for that. You need a savings bank for that. We're a commercial bank. I said, okay, where do you recommend we go to find the savings bank? He said, well, the building's on East 23rd Street. Why don't you go to a savings bank on 23rd Street? That's exactly what we proposed and what we did. We left him at the Public National Bank, went to 23rd Street, found the Broadway Savings Bank. A fellow there by the name of Norman Ramsey ran the bank. I said, we'd like a mortgage on this building. He said, how much do you want? I said, how much can we get? End of day, we achieved a $350,000 mortgage on the building. Went out to raise the other $250,000 by going to 25 people my father had leased space to over the different years. And each one of these people agreed to invest $10,000 in the ownership of this building. And that's how we acquired our first building. And by virtue of going into the building, which was in dreadful condition, needed everything. It was dirty, it was messy, it was old, antiquated. So we went in, without really having a clue as to what to do, we went in to clean the building, physically clean it. We whitewashed the space, we cleaned the windows, we scraped the floors, and all of a sudden the space looked better. We ended up leasing the space for 50 cents a square foot, more than we anticipated ever getting. It was successful, and we were able to pay our investors 1% a month, a 12% return. Not bad. We then went to, people said this was terrific, buy another building. So we went and found a second building to buy, and then a third, and so forth. And after a while, we got a call from one of the banks that originally turned us down for the $15,000 request. And they said, we like what you're doing. We see what you're accomplishing. In the future, you need money. Come to us, we'll give you whatever money you need. It became a sea change in our lives. And the result was the ability to acquire much larger buildings, much more easily, much more quickly. The time came, as mentioned earlier, the opportunity to buy the World Trade Center. At 70 years of age, signed a 99-year lease for ownership of the Twin Towers. And as we know, 6 weeks later, disaster hit. Question was, what could we do? What would we do? I remember sitting with my wife. By the way, best decision I ever made in my life was marrying this woman. We're only together 69 years, and we're getting to know each other. I remember sitting there and saying to her, I said, you know, we've really got to rebuild this place. But the question is, can we? She looked at me that night and she said, you know, you're not going to be happy doing anything else with your life. So why don't we get on with rebuilding the World Trade Center? And I remember saying that to me, and I looked at her and I said, my God, you're the best partner I ever could have had. Because without her, I never could have done it. But with her, we got it done. So today, 25 years later, what I paid $3.2 billion to acquire has taken $10 billion to rebuild the buildings, has taken another $10 billion by the Port Authority to rebuild the infrastructure. So here we are with $20 billion invested in the Trade Center to replace what I paid $3.2 billion originally to acquire. Truth of the matter is, how do you justify it? Tough, really tough, because the one thing we know is we've been in an inflationary period, and we'll probably continue to be in an inflationary period for the rest of our lives. Whether that's ever going to change, hard to know. But today, if you want to accomplish something, you've got to be willing to go all the way in terms of expenditure. So I look back and I realize that if I hadn't taken the route that I took to learn to be a lawyer, to give me the capacity to understand, to see through, to appreciate, as a lawyer, some of the things I had to face, such as fighting 22 insurance companies who decided they weren't going to pay us a dime on our policies. We paid good premiums, but they determined avoid the payment if you can. So it took us 5 years of litigation. We finally won, but it was a tough battle. But being possessed of the legal knowledge that I gained at the Brooklyn Law School gave me the capacity to understand what was transpiring in those 5 years of brutal litigation. So to Brooklyn Law School, I say, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for making possible the opportunities that God gave me. And simply, my wife said, let's go for it. And therefore, I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Appreciate it. This guy's terrific.
This was a bit we get a picture maybe with the
All right, everyone, thank you for joining us for this celebratory evening. I am proud to announce that we have raised over $153,000 tonight for the Bar Prep Fund. So thank you for your generosity in making a difference. And I'm now pleased to introduce you to Roger Grismeyer, class of 2004, who's going to be the next Alumni Association Board President as of July 1st.
Thank you. Nice to see you all, including some former students and former professors. Actually, I'm not here to be introduced, though. I'm here to say thank you to you, Colleen, for everything. Yes, thank you to Colleen. So, for those that aren't that involved, none of you would be here having a good time, having drinks, reconnecting, nor would we have the incredible programs that we have through the Alumni Network without Colleen. So we should all say thank you. And Colleen, this is for you. And you'll all be hearing plenty from me. I do, though. Larry, I got to say one thing, because you will not remember this. 20 years ago, Robin Panofka hired me on his team. And I met you. And I looked at you, and we were talking in our first meeting about how to renegotiate the deal to rebuild the Trade Center. And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Silverstein, I have to ask you, how does a guy get from Brooklyn Law School to here? And you looked at me and you said, how the hell does a guy from Brooklyn Law School get to Wachtell Lipton? And I was like shocked by that. And then I was like, oh, you know what? And you said the difference between us is time and a willingness to take risks, to risk it all. And I never forgot it, so thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night, everyone.
Have a great night.